What's up, guys? How we doing? It's another Wednesday, the Wednesday Link. Thomas, it's great to see you. How you doing?
Great to be here, huh? It's been a while since we've talked about an Eagles loss. A lot of fun things happening this week. And pesky Panthers, what we're going to call them on Sunday, huh? They are the
Yes.
best version that they've been all season long. I mean, that doesn't mean that they're great, but it means that they're better than they were before Bryce Young was benched, and we'll get into that. But welcome in, everybody. Appreciate you guys hanging out and ready to talk about the Birds.
Yes, absolutely. And as Thomas and I would both tell you, make sure you hit the like button. We're trying to, not that we don't normally for this, but this is in particular, try to blast out as many of the recent videos, the upcoming videos that we can, because as you obviously see on your screen, a lot of you already know about it. I'm seeing the comments. Shout out to the Jalyx interview. Scan the QR code. If you can only give $1, that's great. If you can give $5, great. $10, $20, $100, $1,000, whatever you want to give, it's fantastic because it supports an incredible cause, supporting Jalyx Hunt, Thomas and I partnering with him, and to really impact, obviously, all Philly or potentially, a lot of different Philly high school basketball teams. But the goal of 10,000 is what we're trying to get to. And if there's anything beyond that, as Jalyx had mentioned, it's just going to benefit extra schools. So appreciate Jalyx for that. I guess just, again, before we'll jump into the big news, really quickly, that was a fantastic interview. Obviously, I mean, getting to get him on during the season for one, so shout out to him to even be available, but also like the personality, the vibe. Sometimes you wonder, like, when you get in the interview setting, are they going to be themselves? And I hope that everybody could tell, because we were having a blast, but just to get him to be himself and show his personality was like, man, how do you not just huge fan of Big Pimpin'? So
I don't think we've had a bad Eagles player interview yet this year. We did a lot during the offseason. Everyone's really fun to hang out with. We've gotten multiple or extra time off camera as well. We spent probably another 20 plus minutes with Jalyx off camera just talking about this and that. I mean, football off the field, how's it been in Philadelphia, and he's very genuine. And I think that most people can definitely see that. All the comments, a lot of people loved, watching him kind of just reveal himself to a lot of Eagle fans who didn't really watch any of the press conference stuff that he's done during training camp, which, it's a little bit more official. You're saying the right things. And he did plenty of that during our interview because that's what NFL players do. But he was very open. He's a bunch of fun. And he's an easy person to root for. I mean, it feels like you have two future BGs on the roster in Nolan Smith and Jalyx Hunt. And he played a lot this past Sunday, 35 snaps. We talked about that. And he said so himself. He thought he played pretty well. And the film echoes that. He played pretty darn well.
He did, yes. And also to get Vic Fangio's comment because people are going to ask you naturally, and that's what happened, of course. But Fangio's like, he played good, and he's still always, as we saw and heard, like Fangio's going to be like, well, but he can get better. There could be things they can improve on. Sure, but we talk about practice and the reps and everything else. You could say that for all the rookies, but yeah, to get that extra insight, really great to see. Good segue, though, because we got to see Jalyx Hunt on the field. We're hoping to see others naturally on the field. It is some positive news here, Thomas, and this is obviously, the biggest part of jumping on here. Naturally, we go through the Wednesday link, but the news itself is that DeVonta Smith, and I'll make sure that people can see this as well, but DeVonta Smith was seen on the practice field, and not only seen on the practice field, but noticed as it was a walkthrough officially, but designated as a full participant, which is, again, very good, promising signs. And I would just say for this offense that might need it, it's a sight for sore eyes. Let's just say that.
Well, it's interesting, too. I mean, you also had Darius Slay back. He was a full participant. You knew that both of them were very close. The fact DeVonta Smith tried to go, worked out pregame on Sunday is basically a guarantee that he'd be ready the following week. He was, probably 80% healthy. If it was a playoff game he plays, doesn't want to push it. And now he gets to play against the first-ranked pass defense in the National Football League in the Carolina Panthers. And we can get into this, Josh. Kellen Moore's press conference yesterday I thought was fascinating. He was asked about the continued slow start on this offense and what seems like two different offenses, right? They're running very generic, basic, vanilla plays. 3rd and 7, it's a 5-yard stop or a 5-yard cross, and they can't get a first down. Versus second quarter, get that first down and things start rolling. And it feels like DeVonta Smith is going to help hopefully open back up this offense, at least early in football games, because they've been great late in football games. And maybe be that juggernaut for 4 quarters instead of what was really just 2. They didn't have the football in the 3rd quarter versus the Ravens. Crazy to think, but I think he's going to make a big impact coming back. So get healthy. That's been the entire goal of this entire season. Stay healthy. Get healthy whenever there's been issues. Come back, play a good game against the Carolina Panthers, and stay involved in the 1-seed hunt, which is a big deal coming up tomorrow night. Of course, then the Lions play the Green Bay Packers.
Yes, it definitely is. And It's one of those that you talk about because you look at the analytics of it, and I was talking about this on the live stream last night, but it's the worst team in the NFL in the
Hmm.
first quarter. Efficiency-wise,
It's
offensively,
awful.
the worst team. It'd be one thing if we said they're like 20th or 25th, but they're the
Right.
worst team in the NFL. And you go like, yet this team is 10-2. So like the positives of that are, you know what? You're doing what it takes to win. Granted, are you and I always sitting there and going like, okay, well, first quarter didn't really have a whole lot. There's not much scoring. We're gonna have to hopefully kick it into gear here. Maybe I just put that on you. Maybe it's your ultimate jinx. You're calling all of the first quarters, and so
It might be.
that's the
It
issue.
might
And then
be.
all of a sudden we jump into no, but the
might
third
be.
quarter was terrible to your point, so it didn't matter, even though I was doing
It's
the
true.
third quarter.
It's true.
I don't know. It's just the most fascinating thing, and like you said, within Kellen Moore, he even was kind of dumbfounded in a way because like we talked about things, we're trying new ish. Should we script things? Should we go away from scripting? And just because obviously they have a they have a
Right.
fairly good track record after the scripted plays to say, well, how is the defense playing us now? What should we do? But for some reason, you would feel like through 12 games, 13 weeks of the season that you would already be there, and they haven't. So yes, Smitty being back should help. Hopefully this is one of those games, and we can get into it here in a bit, but Carolina Panthers, it's a home game for Philly. Yes, they're playing better, but it should be one where you just take care of business early. Don't mess
Yeah.
around. Don't let them hang around the game. I've seen some people throwing out there like, is it a trap game of sorts? Yeah, you could always make that notion with Pittsburgh and everything, but with the way this team is focused and locked in, I don't know. I don't know if I could fully buy into the trap game of sort.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really been boosting Carolina's stock the past couple of weeks is the fact they almost beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But that's kind of the thing, is a lot of people have almost beaten Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs because the Patrick Mahomes offense particularly has not been that great, and that vaunted defense is no longer the top defense in the National Football League. That was kind of the MO for the Chiefs the first couple of games of this season was, well, but the defense is playing really well. Not necessarily the case the past few weeks. And listen, Bryce Young is playing much better than he had, especially pre-benching, and now he's come back. He's making some unbelievable throws. But you go to the fact that Chuba Hubbard is a legit number one option in the National Football League, just got extended because he's playing so well. And the receiving core, Adam Thielen comes back, Xavier Legette, the rookie, is playing well. They have pieces to be a decent football team. Decent being like the 25th best football team. They're not the 32nd best football team. They're playing better. But with that being said, all we complain about with Philadelphia is the first quarter, and yet they were up 2 scores in the fourth quarter against the Baltimore Ravens, which is
It's true.
nuts. It's just like I saw on WIP today, I actually quote tweeted it because it was so funny. It was it's one of the afternoon shows. I don't know. They all kind of run together, but talking about is the Eagles offense good enough to be a playoff winning offense, or is it just a good regular season offense? It's just so nonsense, right? It's the whole idea as if you get to the playoffs and then suddenly the Eagles offense is just not going to be able to move the football at all. They have played really good football teams over the course of 8 weeks and had zero trouble except for, a weird fumble call by Saquon Barkley against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's basically been it, right? That's basically been the
Yep.
one game where it was kind of close. And it was like, whoa, maybe go down to the wire here. And yet that was clearly not a fumble by Saquon Barkley. It shouldn't have been a problem. And the Eagles should have won by double digits. And coming off the Raven game to say, I don't know, is this offense good enough to be good in the postseason? It's getting old. And we forget this happened in 2022, Josh. Like, this happened big time in 2022, especially when Jalen Hurts went out. But even when Hurts came back, it's like, okay, is the offense going to be good enough? I don't know. And then they beat the brakes off of everybody en route to a Super Bowl. So I'm tired of it. I think they're going to be just fine. You would like to see a little bit more of consistency in the first quarter, sure. But they were very consistent in the Rams game. We've just kind of ignored that because they kicked a field goal instead of scored an opening drive touchdown.
Yeah, it's it goes back to, I mean, honestly, yeah, there's always something to talk about, and in the offseason, regardless, it's frustrating. I'll say that. But in the offseason, when there's not a whole lot, yeah, they're going to throw out some stuff like, oh, will this defense be good enough for We're so far into the season now. I was questioning the same thing. Is like, you see the type of topics we're throwing out there, like, well, hey, the team's playing well, but you can't just leave it at that. It's got to be,
Right.
but, is the offense good enough to win playoff football games? They're good enough to win regular season, but when it comes to playoffs, it's like, yeah, some people want to doubt that. It's the most ridiculous thing ever, though, to me, Thomas, because you look at in the in the postseason, especially if Philly gets the home field advantage throughout. Like if it's home field advantage throughout, that is obviously best case scenario, but especially the way this team plays. But look in the playoffs. Like, what typically and traditionally is the thing that you can hang your hat on in the playoffs is if you have a strong defense and you have a strong running game. Because how many times does all of a sudden, even if you can throw the football, you get to the playoffs and things get a little bit more difficult? And if you don't have some way to impose your will and play physical and out tough and out physical another opposing team, then you can forget about it. And so to me, I'm like, if anything, it tells me this team has more of an offense that can play in the playoffs as opposed to what we're seeing in the regular season. Yes, they need to fix the first quarter starts, but to this point, it's not like, and people want to say that they're frauds. Oh, well, they haven't beaten anybody. They haven't, everybody. Sorry, Baltimore. Like, what do we call Baltimore now? What do we call all these other ones as well? Like, because we can throw out Green Bay and Cincinnati and Washington, and some of them you might argue and go, well, they're not as good. They weren't as good because they always want to discredit as soon as Philly beats them. But regardless, like in terms of offense versus defense, especially, it's 3 of the top 4 offensive teams that Vic Fangio's unit held to under 20 points. And so, I mean, I don't know what else you want to ask for from this team. You get them in a game at the link, cold weather. I mean, good luck.
And the possibilities are there, which, by the way, I think it's worth saying in terms of the playoffs. Philadelphia can clinch a playoff spot. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a 1 or a 2 or 3 or 4, but clinch a playoff spot with a win and some help. They need like the Falcons and the Cardinals to lose, or Tampa Bay and some other team to go ahead and lose. It's a strange combination.
Screen,
but playoff, there you go. Playoff. I mean, all this stuff is ridiculous, right? There's 10 different options, and it's like you're at a buffet. I want Philly to win, but also Arizona to lose, but maybe a tie over here.
Choose your adventure. What do you want?
Either way. I mean, honestly, the one that makes the most sense here is well, see, like the first one's impossible because you need plus a Seattle or Arizona tie, which is not going to happen. The one that I think would make the most sense is Atlanta loses, Arizona loses, and the Rams lose. Just 3 teams lose. None of these weird tie scenarios. It's not going to happen, and so whatever. But the point is, Josh, is that Philadelphia gets the playoff win, or clinches a playoff spot this weekend, but they need Detroit to lose on Thursday. Detroit's got to lose 2 games going forward. You also need the Vikings. The Vikings are 9-2 right now, so they have the same amount of losses as Philadelphia does. We always forget about the Minnesota Vikings as a team. They could beat out or win out, beat the Lions, and then they're the 1 seed, and then Philadelphia has to deal with Detroit earlier on than you'd want to as like a 5 seed most likely going forward. So big-time Packer fans this weekend, you've got to root against the Minnesota Vikings as well. They are a sneaky football team that is still very much in play for the one. It is not just Philadelphia and Detroit, even though I'm not that scared of the Minnesota Vikings. I think Philadelphia is built to beat the Minnesota Vikings, honestly, but that's a different topic. So just a couple of thoughts here in terms of as Philadelphia gets ready for the postseason. But Carolina, it just feels like one of those games where everything should go right, and they should blow them out like the Tennessee Titan game at the link halfway through the season in 2022. You know, it's like maybe a little revenge game. Titans, A.J. Brown, we'll see. And it was over by halftime, and you just kind of moved on. The Titans were trash that year, and Philadelphia went ahead and got ready for another good football team after that, just like we do with the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up 2 weeks from now. So should be fine, I'd say.
Yes, and just don't play with your food as always.
Do not play with them. Don't get injured.
For sure. That's the other thing. Yeah, just we don't need any of these other parts. Thankfully, Dallas Goedert, not a long-term or season-ending injury. Right. We'll see. It's kind of going towards the direction of, and if people didn't catch it or see, I guess I can find the tweet here real quick, but the Eagles officially signing CJ Uzomah to the roster. Right. So that is...
But not putting Dallas Goedert on IR,
right,
which is interesting, right?
Yes,
I know we're interesting part there. So it doesn't mean it means he's not out for 4 weeks like I thought that he was going to be. I thought for sure they'd go IR, sign Uzomah, put somebody else up there. Not the case. So just week to week, he's not going to play this week, Josh, right? But correct. I think maybe the Steeler game is probably something he's pushing for.
Hopefully so. But again, I mean, it's good news regardless because of the position itself and what we need. The Eagles signing a fullback, obviously, as well. Kari Blasingame.
Very exciting.
Talked about that on the live stream last night. Shout out to Anthony.
What do you think of that?
Who was here earlier mentioning as well, had the stats for it. It's kind of crazy. It's I like it. It's just interesting. I don't believe that I thought that I don't know. I don't know that I would have felt like we would actually sign a fullback to the practice squad, not the rush, but still to the practice squad. Yeah, that's not more of your hybrid because BVS, Ben Van Sumeren, was that. But I think it tells you even more of, okay, this team, yeah, they're committed to the running game, but they
Yeah.
love the looks they've gotten from I formation or just having any fullback
Yes.
on a field. So you look at a guy and say, well, you know what? There's a person out there on the street. We go ahead and bring him in. He's played fullback. He's gotten, I think it was like 600 something snaps offensively,
It's a
800
lot.
something special teams. So he has some versatility there for the special teams part as well. Why not bring him in? This team is the best running team in the NFL. They proved it for sure to go into Baltimore and do that. So I'm all for it. You want to out physical, beat every team that way, you might as well. And
They're
honestly, you're
really
talking about Carolina. I was going to mention real quick as we're
yeah.
mentioning how to not overlook them, take care of business, everything there. Really, all that you need to know and all that you need to see is that. Let me see if I can get this actually on the screen. There you go. So we're looking at the worst run defense teams in the league, and there you go. That is the number 32.
It's not good.
Last place, Carolina Panthers.
It's not good.
Not a good omen playing the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you have Saquon Barkley, the only caveat that I would say is to maybe not take his over is if this game, like you're saying, Thomas, if it turns
Right.
into a blowout, your Kenny Gainwell picks lately might be the play, actually. So
It didn't
saying.
hit this weekend, but you're right. If the Eagles start blowing them out earlier than like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, whenever Saquon hit that touchdown this past week, the Kenny Gainwell over 13.5, higher than 13.5 rushing yards is almost a guarantee. So
Seems like
we'll see there. It's so fascinating when we talk about getting a fullback because he's not signed to the active roster, as you said. He'll get 3 activations in terms of the practice squad to the active roster. He played in 3 games before he has to be signed, hence why CJ Uzomah essentially was signed, because Uzomah's practice squad or elevations, I should say, were over. But there are basically 3 types of running football teams in the National Football League, Josh. There are the running football teams that have a good offensive line and an average to below average running back, right? So the offensive line creates great holes. Running back can't help but run through them, and they're a good running team. Next is what Saquon Barkley was on, a bad offensive line, but a very good running back who creates lanes himself. He sets up his blocks. He hits holes that you don't necessarily see, and hence why Saquon had 1,000-yard seasons, his rookie season specifically, with the Giants. And then you have the Philadelphia Eagles, who have a great offensive line that creates insane running lanes, plus a running back who creates his own running lanes, and it's the perfect combination. I think Philadelphia, like you said, ran I formation, offset I formation, used the fullback and run plays 20 times so far this season, averaged like 6 to 7 yards per carry, and went, this would be great in 28-degree weather at the link in January in quarter number 4. This would be exactly what the doctor ordered in a one-score game with 6 minutes left against the Detroit Lions, and you need to run the football to win. Put the fullback in, create the lanes. Saquon finds them. They hit another home run. The game's over. So,
Yeah.
Gotta like it. And the fact that Howie was able to go find somebody is a credit to Howie, who's had, I think we said this in 2022, his best offseason. This is feeling like the best Howie offseason maybe of his entire career, which is pretty wild.
It honestly might be, and you're right. It
might be.
is wild, but yeah, you
might
look
be.
at all of the acquisitions, the draft picks, and really you go back to a couple or several guys that, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of us have been questioning, are they going to play up to the level? Can you get a Nakobe Dean? Jordan Davis has looked much better as of late, played more snaps, definitely huge in the run game of slowing down or limiting Derrick Henry. So you go back and like the draft picks that he's had, I'd have to find the official tweet, but I think that Anthony DeVonta had posted of like
I saw that
rounds 1 through 3 over the past 3 or 4 years have been a much better than even like a year ago, but certainly 2 years ago we were going, I don't know, like some of these guys are iffy. Are they going to make a significant impact? And now you're starting to see it of like, this is phenomenal. And you also have 2 of the highest graded linebackers in the NFL, and they're both in the Philly, or they're both on the Philly defense. So kudos to Vic Fangio. I know to Bobby King, to all the guys there, but you really can't say enough about what they've done with this squad, with this unit. Yes, it's the players making plays, but they deserve a ridiculous amount of praise for what they've turned around in this defense, especially Vic Fangio, from 30th ranked to first in the NFL. It's just nuts.
Yep, I totally agree. I saw a couple of comments here. There was a super chat too.
Yes. Let me hit that one. Actually, I missed 2 of them. Yeah. So War of here with a 2. Appreciate that. Going back to the Lions and Packers game for tomorrow night, or I guess today, depending on if you're watching this one back. But
Sure.
Lions been getting lucky. I think Packers win. There we go.
Okay. I don't know about lucky,
I
but I
hope they
do.
do.
I saw someone tweet that all the conversation this week at Sports Talk Radio is like Jalen Hurts is not playing great, but he's getting bailed out, and is he going to be good enough in the post? Which is so dumb, right? But I
Hmm.
saw the stat comparison between Goff and Hurts is exactly the same, and the Lions rely more, I think, on their running game than Philadelphia does, but the media doesn't really talk about it, right? Like the Gibbs and Montgomery combination is very similar to a solo Saquon Barkley, excuse me, and they rely on it an absolute ton. The amount of games where they get Jahmyr Gibbs 60-yard run, Dave Montgomery's a guarantee inside the 10-yard line. We think Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we think Jared Goff is just kind of having this otherworldly season. Both can be true. He's been really good, but Jared Goff is not balling out of his mind. They run the football well, and they throw to their wide receivers. It's two football teams that are very similar. The big difference between Philadelphia and Detroit right now, Josh, Detroit's defense has lost like 11 starters to IR or 11 players to IR. They are extremely banged up, and they're going to miss a couple of offensive linemen on Thursday night versus the Green Bay Packers. That's been the big key and why most, I think, logical people would start to lean towards Philadelphia, especially if the one seed were to happen and you get Jared Goff out of his precious dome.
Yep, and that's what we're. I mean, we've
Get him
seen
out of there.
instances where, for sure, he threw 5 interceptions in one game. Yet
Yeah.
the national sentiment coming away from that game was like, "Oh my gosh, Detroit's unbeatable," because they won the
Yeah.
football game. But you're like,
Yeah.
hang on, if Jalen Hurts had thrown 5 interceptions in that game, and the Eagles had won, no one would care. It would all be like Jalen Hurts is washed. Jalen Hurts is broken. He's never going to be
Yep.
a good quarterback. The Eagles are doomed. They're not going to be able to make a deep run because Jalen Hurts will limit them. But yet, if it's Detroit, oh, what a resilient team. They can fight through this. Jared Goff gutted out a performance, even though it
Yep.
wasn't great to begin with, gutted it out. So I don't know. You get these like very, very double standard takes from the national media. And I'm not of the mindset of like okay, Jalen Hurts should be an MVP candidate. Some people
No.
going that far. I'm not
Nick
saying
Sirianni.
that, but Saquon Barkley is the guy for the Eagles. But if you're going to go to the level of saying like, oh my gosh, there's polar opposites or absolute extremes, like some people have said, look a little bit closer at the numbers there. It's Jalen not getting the credit that he deserves for what he's doing, and you know what? He's taking advantage of opportunities, and that's why the Eagles are winning.
Well, and Jared Goff and Jalen Hurts are in very similar categories. Their teams are winning in the fourth quarter, and they don't throw the football much. Like you go back through, I got Jared Goff's stats pulled up here. His past, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. He's had one over 300-yard performance, and that was their 52-6 drubbing of the Jacksonville Jaguars, where he threw the ball 29 times and had 412 yards through the air. The rest of these games, Chicago 221, completion percentage wasn't great. Indy 269, Houston 240, Green Bay 145, Tennessee in a massive win only had 85, right? So it's not like Jared
Not
Goff
even
is throwing
100.
400-yard passing games every single week. They are getting massive leads and they're running the football. And Philadelphia's in the exact same boat right now with Jalen Hurts. And that's kind of why I'm excited for the Carolina Panther game, Josh. And I think that the media was trying to ask Kellen Moore this in his press conference yesterday, like trying to hint at it, like, do you want to use Carolina as kind of like a, hey, NFL, we can throw on you at will if we want to sort of game? And of course, Kellen Moore wasn't really buying the whole, taking the bait and stuff. But you could see Carolina being this like 400-yard outburst from Jalen Hurts just to kind of be like, okay, like we have Saquon Barkley, you know what he can do. We also can throw the football with A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith at will, and you won't be able to stop it either. So
Right.
I doubt that happens because they're going to get a lead and they're going to run the football. But still, I wouldn't be surprised if that's maybe an internal, unspoken mindset inside Philadelphia this week.
So officially, yes. Take the Kenny Gainwell over, but I'm also with you of the sense of, Jared Goff, like you just said. You pulled up the stats. I was showing them as you were mentioning it. There's not the same standard of when he has those games of like, whoa, Jared Goff had less than 150 yards, had less than 100 yards passing a game, even with the blowout. No, it won't, because it'll just be like Detroit's just this juggernaut, and yet Philly can go into Baltimore and beat a Baltimore team who's beat the brakes off of some people and shown everything you need to from the offensive side of the football, and no, it's still there's some sort of fluke thing to this. Jalen's going to hurt them. He's not going to be able to do it whenever the biggest moment comes. It's like, I'm sorry. Do we forget the Super Bowl? Do we forget when the Eagles in the past couldn't run the football, of how he was able to perform? Like, he rises to the occasion. So, I don't know. I'm not as concerned about it. Jerry here, appreciate the 2, said trust in the stash. it's still alive. The stash is staying until we lose. And I don't know. It may
crazy.
The stash is shape.
The stash is at a point now, 8 weeks in, where Philadelphia, let's say they run the table the rest of the way, and we're getting ready for the divisional round as the 1 seed in Philadelphia. Josh's stash needs actual media attention because Josh is the biggest Eagle media person in Philadelphia right now, and his stash has been the reason why we've been on this run. A Philadelphia Inquirer article on Josh Davis and the magical stash would 100% do crazy numbers if it continues to be magical. But odds are we will. I mean, I don't know what odds are, but I feel like we're going to lose again. Maybe. I mean, Pittsburgh is the game, right?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
I say
money
it out
on the
loud,
table.
Like,
I mean, do we lose again? Do we lose the game again?
Oh, money on the table. Yeah. If you ask me right now and I put $1,000 on the Eagles winning out, I would say no. And that's just because I think Pittsburgh is really good. Okay. Pittsburgh is the last, and I don't want to say test because we passed every test, right? The Eagles are a great football team. They could lose by 20 to Pittsburgh, and I will still buy into them, right? But I think that the Dallas and the Giant games are going to be very interesting because both teams have nothing to play for, and Philly might not as well. I think the Giant game could be a very interesting game where if the Eagles don't have the 1 seed locked up, like let's say they lose to Pittsburgh, and then Detroit obviously has taken the 1 seed, Philly's going to rest everybody for the Giant game, and they could lose that game. And now Philadelphia beats Pittsburgh, and let's say they get close to the Giant game, but then, of course, Detroit hasn't lost, and so strength of schedule or whatever the metric is tells you that Detroit's going to be the 1 seed. Again, they sit because they take their own little bye week, get ready for the divisional round, and so I would bet that they lose one more, but I don't know. I don't feel great saying it. I just want to say Pittsburgh is a very, very, very good football team right now. That is going to be what I think a lot of us thought the Ravens game was going to be in terms of like close, competitive, fourth quarter down to the wire because the Ravens game really wasn't. Pittsburgh's the real deal.
Okay. They are. I'll agree with you. They are absolutely
What would
the
you
real
do?
deal.
$1,000. $1,000.
If I had to,
you had to.
If I had to, I would say that we do win out. Because here's my thing is, I agree with you that out of all the remaining games, and people see it on the screen, obviously, Pittsburgh is the game. Now, no discredit to Washington. Washington's given us fits at times to sweep them as well. If you're coming off of a tough Pittsburgh game, going to at Washington, but still, I think Pittsburgh is the game. If you get past that, for me, it's like you're playing for the 1 seed regardless. If you've beaten Carolina, you're still playing for it. If you've beaten Pittsburgh, you're still playing for it. Then there's Washington. If you beat Washington, you're still playing for it. And then Dallas and New York are just Dallas and New York. I mean, again, no offense to them, but like if you've won those 3 games, then you're playing for everything at those points. You're not going to slip up and lose, or I don't think you're going to.
Well, and something that, as I argue against myself here, Dallas and New York don't want to win those football games because they want to get a high draft pick because they want Quinn Ewers or Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, and so I don't know. I argue against myself. Why don't we do a little wager then? Let's do it. Maybe not $1,000. $1,000 is a little much. Okay. What if we? What do you
You're the one throwing out the numbers.
$20, $100. What
$20.
Do here? The problem is that I'm wagering against something I don't want to happen. Right? Like I don't want to lose.
Well, I know, but you said it though.
I do. Yeah. What do you want to do? 20 or 100? I'll let you make the call.
Okay.
We've never had a wager.
We've never. This would be the first wager of the Wednesday link.
90% of the time.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say a lot of people here. Someone saying 1K. What's the payout? Yeah, we're not doing 1K.
We're not doing $1,000. If I told my wife I was betting Josh Davis on Eagles wins and losses for $1,000 right now, I think she would skin me alive.
Mine too. Should we come back out and be like, "What did you just do?" Like, I know you believe the Eagles, but huh?
Yeah. I don't know.
I would say. I'm good with $100.
Okay,
sure. If you want to do that,
Messiah Armstrong said 50. You want to do 50 or 100?
Split the difference. Whatever you want. You tell me.
Oh, I sound like a baby not wanting to do it. Let's just do 100. $100. There you go.
Okay.
$100. So you say they win out, which I would rather have happen. Just let it be known. People are thinking I'm like rooting against the Eagles. I would much rather that happen. I would think that they lose before the end of the season. So there you go. That's our friendly wager. So.
And you're getting great odds at this because they're even odds for both of us. So
are they even odds? Okay.
Well, realistically, if this was a Vegas like parlay, if I was just to take money line Eagles, money line Eagles, money line Eagles, money line Eagles, it would be a very plus odds for me. So you're getting a
Okay.
a great deal. You're playing with house money here, but I'm confident in the Eagles. So
Okay.
and
I
got
am
the
too.
stash,
I just,
so
yeah, well, yeah, I do have the power of the stash. Hey, Bear just said, what are we betting on? Just tuned in. We are now betting on, we don't normally do this. I think the Eagles will lose one more game the rest of the way. Don't want them to. I'm just saying I think that they will. Josh
yep.
thinks they'll go undefeated, so we're betting $100 on it. So there you go.
Hey, how about this too, right? Because it's for a good cause, and we got the QR code up here, so people make sure
Yeah,
to
yeah.
scan that and donate. Whoever, if I lose before, or the Eagles lose before the 18th, because that's how long this deal is going to go up, that the loser contributes another 100
There you
to
go. That's the way to do it.
Jalyx Hunt and the Philly
I didn't
schools.
even think
That
about
way it
that.
benefits
But
everyone.
if it's after the 18th,
then
I
you
get
can
the
have
money.
it. Sure.
There you go. Okay. Deal. I
And
like
then
that.
lose it on
I
underdog.
like that. Yeah, I definitely will do that. Trust me, I definitely will do that. Which, by the way, throw up the fundraiser again. Let's just give a couple shout-outs here to
Yes.
everybody
Yep. Let
who
me get
has
the
donated.
page real quick.
Because we've had 85 people donate to this joint effort, which is really cool. The fact that we have our faces and our logos up with Jalyx Hunt, we interviewed Jalyx Hunt, work with this team on this, is it's awesome. Like Josh and I are not overlooking the fact that we get to work with an Eagle player on a joint thing officially.
Mm-hmm.
Really grateful for Jalyx Hunt and his awesome team. Rachel, shout out to Rachel for setting this whole thing up. She was incredible. But the fact that you guys have donated $3,000 to this just because of our shows, because this is, I think I was looking at the donations, like 99% of this is our show. We are so grateful for everyone who did this, and it's like a wide range, like $200, $100, 50, 5, and that's kind of the pitch right now that I did on my show on Tuesday or whatever is. If we just had like 1,000 people donate $5, then we would instantly get to this goal. Like it'd be so fast. So if you haven't done it yet, $5, $1, whatever it is, we would greatly appreciate it. And 100% goes to 100% goes to the causes. So the high schools, we're gonna have pictures, being taken of Jalyx delivering that. We'll have that on our show, so you'll get to see and witness it. So it's just a great cause, and we're really pumped, and we appreciate everybody who went ahead and already donated.
We've got all the names here. Shout out quickly so far. As you said, the 86, Josh Morgan, William, Alec, Joanne, Karen, Daniel Green, Gary Bates, Christopher, Craig, Sean, several anonymous, Richard, Chantel, William Mott. I recognize that name.
Sounds very familiar, yeah.
Eric, Robert, Cheryl, Samaneth, Joshua, James. I feel like Nick Sirianni now. Just listen to everyone's name. Landon, Chris, Jason, Jeff, William, Alec, Lakeelia. I'm butchering some of these, I'm sure. Paul, another Paul, John, Terrence, Spencer, Anonymous, Matt, another Josh, Shay, Sam, Chris, Craig, Marcus, Ronald, William, James, Derek, Martina, Hassani, several anonymous, James, John, Nick, Andrew, Christina, James, Andrew, Jonathan, Adam, Dacia, James, Ricardo, Noah, Pete, Carter, Evan, Kyle, Jacqueline, and Anthony DeBona, Jonathan, you and I, Alexander, Michael, and James. There we go.
There you go.
That was a lot more than I thought it was going to be, but I
Do you think that Terrence, the Terrence Williams there is former Baylor and Cowboy wide receiver Terrence Williams? I don't know. I saw Terrence Williams on there.
Potentially, it would be a little interesting. I guess it's. I
don't know the connection, but sure.
Texas boys, perhaps, if Jalyx and Terrence know each other somehow, but I don't know. I would guess no, but it's crazy how people are connected. You never know. Garrett, I'm going to get to some of these super chats too because we missed.
Yeah. Let's hit those.
Garrett with a 5 said, "Do you guys know how seeding would work if the Lions and Eagles have a tied record at the end of the regular season?"
I saw that on Twitter. Isn't it Detroit? Wouldn't it be like probably Detroit?
It most likely, and I'm sure that people have answered this a little bit by now because it's a little bit later, but I think it's most likely Detroit, although it depends on who they would lose to. Like if we have the same record, I think it depends on the tiebreaker, so also who they lose to, like the remainder. Like what tied record are we talking about, basically?
Yeah.
Potentially.
I think that Philadelphia needs to be one game up. Let's just say that. Let's just get one game up. That way there's no weird scenario, and then we're going to Detroit for the NFC title game. So, but it leans Detroit is what I had read.
Okay. Yep. I think you're right. I think I saw that too. Will Berger with another 10. Let's go. Said, I've been complaining about the holding against the Eagles for weeks now, and finally people started seeing it as well. But wow, Jalen Carter playing elite. Anyway, dude's a beast. Keep up the great work, guys. Thank you.
It's almost like how like last year Lane Johnson was false starting in every single play according to non-Eagle fans, and people were complaining about it, and the league did nothing. It's the exact same thing. Jalen Carter is being held, and I did a compilation, I think, that Shane Half posted on his Twitter account, couple days ago, like 9 plays in the second and third quarter where it's not like he's maybe being held. He's being like egregiously arm around the neck, being pulled back
Oh,
in
yeah.
one direction. It's wild. And it feels like it's just going to take one officiating crew, because I'm sure the Eagles are complaining to the league like week after week. One crew to figure it out, and you're going to have like 6 holding calls on whoever's on Jalen Carter. So we are with you, Will Berger. It's ridiculous. But the fact the league hasn't called it, it's like they just assume it happens every single play, and so they can't throw a flag every play, right? Which is wild. But I don't remember Aaron Donald getting a lot of these calls either. Like, Aaron Donald didn't get a bunch of holding calls thrown his way, and I think it's just part of being elite, which is really stupid to say. I feel like an idiot saying that out loud. But what else is the reasoning, right? Are these not holding calls? They look like holding calls to me.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, there's a couple, sure, you could be like, yeah, maybe not. But
maybe.
To your point, the egregious calls and several of those outcomes against the Ravens was like, I don't know what they're watching. I don't know what they're looking at to try to, wait and go, well, maybe that's going to impact the play or not. Because sometimes, being an official, it's well, if it significantly impacts, then they call it. Sometimes it's like, well, you can call holding on every play. But it's just kind of mind-boggling, the fact that we came away from that and you're going, yeah, you could call holding 10 plays, maybe just call it once. Like, I don't know, just one time. Could be great.
Just one time.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't the most penalized team coming into it for holding calls. And I don't know if that was just like it feels like it's something that they had to have addressed, because even the officiating crew was one of the highest rates in terms of calling holds in the NFL. And then you go in this game with a Ravens team that holds at the highest rate, and the fact that we never got one of those against Jalen Carter was, I don't know. There's no words for it, but they still won. It didn't matter.
What are you going to do?
It would be nice, to Will Berger's point. Damon's with a 2 said, I want in.
He wants in on the bet.
He wants in on the bet. Okay, well.
I don't know if we can do that. I don't know how to do that.
I'm sure that he's taking my side, Thomas, so it's really it's up for
the Eagles win out. I really do. I just
take Thomas's money.
Did they? What was the? Hang on. Eagles schedule. What was the 2022 end of the road? Did they lose? I don't even remember.
Well, it was rough because Jalen was out and.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because they lost the Saints game. Right. I forgot about that.
Gardner Minshew was in. So.
Right. I forgot about that. So they lost
Saints and Cowboys.
That Dallas game and the Cowboy game. Okay.
Yep.
But they technically didn't lose like at all. I mean, they had the Washington game, but they had that stretch like week 11 up until week 16 where they beat everybody and they beat the brakes off everybody. So
true.
Yeah, it's hard to compare because Jalen got hurt. I forgot about that.
Okay.
Carry on.
Crazy, but could we say, because that was wild, but if they do, and I know that's what I'm picking, I think that there's like one and a half really difficult games on the schedule. But if you get through those, then they're like, okay, they should take care of business. I mean, if we're going into the postseason, you're like, this team has been undefeated since week 5 or 6, however you want to phrase the bye week. But like that's nuts. That's insanity going into playoffs.
And there will be somebody in the media saying like they need to lose. They just they can't have this many wins in a row. It'll be like the Patriots back in 2008 or whatever. Or whatever. They will. I would rather be as hot as possible in a juggernaut, but that's just me. So.
Yeah. Well, because I think that they're a little bit more focused of being like to the notion of they need to lose. It's not the same type of team that's like all high and mighty and boasting about themselves like, oh, we can't get beat. You hear them in the press conference, but then you see it and the way that they're practicing week in and week out and the way that it shows up on the field, you're like, yeah, this team they're focused. They're on a mission.
Yeah.
Let's see. DJ7 was going to mention the 5 says Nick needs to shave regularly and Josh needs to grow the stash during regular season for us to win.
Wouldn't that be such a great? I mean, Phil, the Eagles should make this happen, right? If the win streak continues, Sirianni's shaved head is interviewed by clean face plus mustache Josh Davis, and they combine the shaved head and the mustache powers into one interview. That would really do some serious numbers. I'm just saying.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm up for it. I guess if any one of the Eagles is watching and happens to see this, sure, let's go for it.
Shout out quickly. Hey Bear said he just donated to the Jalyx Hunt GoFundMe. So shout out He Bear. Sorry, He Bear did. So shout out He Bear. But continues with the super chats.
Okay, thank you. No, we appreciate all you guys. Means a lot. Going to a great cause, as we said. Adrian Jones with the 5 said beat 55 for BG. I love the show. Let's go.
Does she mean bet 55 for BG? I think it was bet.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, it says
I think
beat. Okay, that was throwing me off. I was
that's
like,
what she
beat
means.
55 for bet. Okay,
Too bad. We're doing 100.
a little bit late.
Why
We already
not?
did 100. So
$100. Shout out Green Dream with a 10. If they lose to Green Bay Thursday and both teams win out and tie, we have tiebreaker because we beat Green Bay. Is that how it works? What is the actual playoff tiebreaker? Playoff because is it strength of schedule?
I think that I think they might be right. I think the first one that they go off of is common opponents. So it would be Green Bay.
If at the end of the regular season, 2 or more clubs in the same division, okay, that doesn't make sense because that wouldn't work. We don't want division. We want let's see. 3 wild card from each conference. That's wild card. This is so confusing. Can I just have 2 teams that aren't in the same division here? Let me see if I can find it. I'm trying. Nope, this is division. Wild card team. Other tiebreaking procedures. Okay, in comparing records against common opponents among tied teams, the best one-loss tied percentage is the deciding factor, since teams may have played an unequal number of games. What? I'm more confused now, honestly. I have no idea.
Yeah, the only thing I thought, I'm seeing some other comments as well. I thought that it was common opponents, but not seeing
head-to-head best one-loss tied percentage in games between the clubs. Best one-loss tie percentage in games played within the division. Best one-loss tie percentage in common games. So, yeah. So wouldn't that make sense? Because head-to-head, Detroit, because that's 1. Philly and Detroit won't have played. Then one loss tied in the division. They're not in the same division. So third would be one loss tied percentage in common games, which would be just the Packer game, right? Have we played any other common opponents? I'm sure we have. The Jaguar game.
But we've both won. I think it'd be a little bit more research, but I think that it is. So become Packers fans. We'll just say that.
We've both played the Rams. We've both played the Bucks. They lost to the Bucks as well. We've both played the Cowboys. We've both played the Packers. We both played the Jaguars. So we would have So we would have technically, because we beat the Green Bay Packers, but they play the Packers again. So I don't know. We'll stop worrying about it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
if anyone knows, let us know in the comment section. I'm so confused.
They would have played them twice. We only played them once. Who knows?
Is the Packer game counted twice because they're in the same division, says Benji? I don't know. If Pack wins, we are the top seed. Right, if the Packers win this week and then we win, then we would be the 1 seed as of now.
Yeah, so then if both teams went out, we would keep it, I would assume. So
it's just very confusing. Who knows?
Let's just get the 1 seed. Go Pack go, as Jesse said.
Yeah,
that's what we're
big time. Big time. I totally agree. Totally agree.
I have to be anyway, but I would it just helps to have an extra rooting interest to say if they win, then it gives us the 1 seed, assuming we take care of business. But I think we can. Let's see. Manuel here with a 5 says, "Good work, guys. My manager hates me. He's a Giants fan. Go Birds."
Okay. I don't know if I'd want my manager to hate me, but I guess if it's just for football, then sure. You ever had a bad, like a manager who hated you, Josh, ever? Way back in the day? I'm trying to think if I did.
Yeah, there was maybe not entry-level job, but how many entry-level jobs can we actually say? Was it us or was it the manager, right? Like, you're kind of figuring things out. So
managing 18-year-old Josh Davis.
Best Buy for that job.
Is that where you first worked?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Best Buy, huh?
Mm-hmm. That was
wow. Like on the floor, like helping people find TVs and stuff?
It was mainly customer service. So I was the person that, you show up to and you're like, "Hey, I really don't want this," and we do the returns. Yeah, that was
sick.
That was me. So
good time. How much did Best Buy pay? How much was it?
That was back whenever minimum wage was $7.25 an hour.
Wow,
those were good times.
Sweet. Yep. Hey, my PlayStation 3 doesn't work, and it's your fault.
Like, all right, talk to the Geek Squad.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. That's not a bad one.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not a bad one.
I ended up trading in for a snow cone job. Made more money at a snow cone stand after that. So,
there you go.
Whatever works.
Who
knew that we'd be doing YouTube channels now? It's wild.
Frank from Philly says Josh was working for Geek Squad with laughy faces. No, it sounds like he was like alongside. You weren't even in the Geek Squad.
Well, and Thomas can tell you that I would be the furthest thing from Geek Squad anyway. So I'm not going to figure
You've
out
gotten better.
the
You've gotten better.
Okay, better, but there's still when the floor is so low as it is, it's
Sure.
maybe not saying as much. So, thank
There
you.
you
I'll
go.
take the compliment.
Nathaniel Bowden, shout out Nathaniel. There's Nathaniel. I haven't seen him in the chat in a while. My first job was
What's up?
520.
Oh
Woo!
man. Okay.
What is it now? It's got to be like 12, 15 bucks, something like that. I don't even know. It's better than
I guess it
725 and
depends.
520.
Yeah,
that's for
it's
sure.
much better than that. Andrew
My
says
first job. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, Andrew just said Josh looks like a guy who would try to sell me a membership.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to sign up for the.
It's like you need the extended protection on this toaster. Like you gotta have it. Trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Protection plan.
Oh man, my first job was a cavern tour guide at Natural Bridge Caverns in San Antonio, Texas. So, which was fun, but it was exhausting because it was like a 12-hour day, and you'd give like 5 2-hour tours or whatever it was to 50 plus people down in the cave for 3 hours, and so yeah, it was a lot of work. But I think I made $750 when I got hired, and then I got multiple raises up to $9 because I was very highly rated as a tour guide. Fun fact,
Hey.
but. Yeah, that was my first job. Got to talk, so it worked out well, I guess.
There you go. Okay.
Stalagmites, stalactites, whatever you want to know.
You've got it all. Yes, we've done a couple of those. Not actually in San Antonio, but those tours are pretty legit. The last one we did was in Branson, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Gunners here.
Caves are fun.
First,
yeah,
job,
I see that.
325 an hour. Wow,
Gunner, you're aging yourself. Sadly, surely.
Jeez. That yeah.
Little
so, as Nat says, from processing returns to returning cameras, full circle. You
There
made
you
it, Josh.
go.
I did because I
There
showed
you
up to
go.
the Best Buy and I was like, I'm returning this. And I
Yeah, they
looked
said
at
it's you.
the gentleman there,
It's
and I
you.
was like, that used to be me. So, good on him though. Good on him. Appreciate Best
I
Buy.
just saw the. I wanted to actually bring this up. I saw someone commented saying, "Where was it? Oh yeah, Mohammed says CJ voted NFL's most annoying player. Do you see that today? Isn't that hilarious?
That
68
is.
NFL players, which is kind of funny. It was only 68, but the Athletic did a thing where they were voting on the most annoying like on-field chirpers, and Gardner Johnson was 1. Brandon Graham was 3, which is pretty crazy.
Mhm.
AJ Brown did get a vote. He got 1 vote. He wasn't top 5 or 10, but he did get a vote. But yeah, Gardner Johnson, not a surprise. That sounds about right. And when the Eagles are winning, I'm sure both BG and Gardner Johnson are about as annoying as they come for an opposing football team, which I love. So Gardner Johnson has gotten, by the way, shout out to him. We don't talk about him at all because he's just been silently doing his job very well. He was getting dragged the first 4 weeks of the season. He couldn't tackle. He was like the worst cover secondary piece on our team. Completely tackling and cover stuff is to bed. And he tweeted like week 5, I'm going to fix it all. And he has. So shout out to CJ Gardner Johnson because he has fixed it big time. Big time.
It's amazing, honestly, like to the extent that he's fixed it, because he totally deserves it. You're right. But when we started to see that, and I know because we were all right there as we're going into the bye of like, you got to be kidding me. This is the same thing that we saw last year. It's a lax defense. You're not making tackles. They were one of the worst tackling football teams in the league.
Awful.
And then I don't know what it is today. I would imagine it's not much of a change because our tackling has been phenomenal. But as of last week, I think we were second in the NFL, only behind the Steelers in terms of the least missed tackles. So like,
wow.
You talk about great tackling teams. It's a pretty big turnaround to be one of the worst. And then now we fast forward to where we are now and going like, oh yeah, we're basically the best, if not the best in terms of tackling.
And I go back to that drill. Remember when they started having like the guy holding the tackling dummy at practice and like, we're going to work on tackling. We all were like, oh gosh. And then now they're great at it. So,
shout out to
credit to
Joe Casper
Philadelphia, man.
for getting willing to be the, I guess the dummy out there to be tackled.
There you go.
Good for him.
Benji says, man, my favorite Eagles YouTuber is a caveman. Yeah, I was. Man, I knew the tour was 2 hours long, and I had it memorized by heart because I gave it about 1,000 times. So I could, there are multiple caves at Natural Bridge Caverns. So if you were like good enough, you got to work on the experience level cave. And so I moved over there and back and forth. I did that for 3 summers into college and got very tired of it at the end. So I went back. I took my, she was not my wife then. She actually was just a friend back then, but I took her and some other friends to the cave after I had retired. And I was like, oh, what? Let's go see it. And I got there and I was like, what am I doing? I've done this tour like 1,000 times. I don't want to go on this tour as like one of the patrons. And it was awful. I was like, get me out of this place. I'm so sick and tired. I've never been back. So is what
could
it is.
probably get it
Anyway,
better than those other people. So
I probably could. Green Dream, back on football here, with a 10, says we win tiebreaker that way because we would win all tiebreakers, undefeated in division, plus beat common opponent and more home game wins. There you go. So there's the answer. Yeah, the division record helps too, right? And we're assuming Detroit is losing the divisional opponent in Green Bay this Thursday. So,
hopefully,
is what it
yes.
is.
Tomorrow, be cheering them on. Literally, I mean,
Big
almost
time.
24 hours from
Big time.
from right now is go Pack go. So we could
Go
be saying
Pack
that.
go. Yep. Which, by the way, the Packers could very well be, if the Birds are the 2 seed, or even if they're the 1 seed, could very well be that first game in the playoff opponent. Like, it is it very likely that it would be them or like the Atlanta Falcons or the Washington Commanders. It's like them and technically Tampa too. Like, you got to kind of hope that Tampa wins their division. That way, Tampa as a 4 seed would be the highest winning seed on Wild Card Weekend, would go to Detroit, right, and give Detroit all that they had, and we would get the lowest winning seed as the 1 seed, right, as we're breaking down playoff stuff.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Avoid Tampa.
That's the one thing, because out of all the teams, it's kind of crazy to say that, at least look at the records.
It is crazy to say that. Yes.
But yeah, we're so much better, right? It'd be totally different playing Tampa at the
That's
Link.
true. That's
very
true.
much different. But still, like, I think that a lot of people, and myself included, are of the mindset of being like, there's something about Todd Bowles and there's something about Tampa whenever they play the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts is like, I don't know, but it would be different. I think we could still win.
Here's a tweet I just saw about the whole playoff thing, just to put a bow on it. A Detroit loss tomorrow night to Green Bay would mean the Eagles would be 1 Minnesota loss to anybody away from having control of their own fate. So that is the answer. If we all have a common record, Minnesota, I think, would be the 1 seed based on all the things we talked about earlier. So if Detroit loses, Minnesota gets a 3rd loss, and Philadelphia wins out, they're the 1 seed. So let it be known.
Okay.
Let it
it's
be
official. That's all we need.
Yep.
Make it happen.
That's it.
We'll just say that.
That's it. Okay. Let's see. Couple more chats here. Lions also play the Bills next week, and or the week after. That is true. They have Buffalo. Obviously, they have to play. They play the Packers, obviously they play the Packers. They play the Bears again, right? They almost lost that game. Don't they play Chicago again? I think they have a pretty tough schedule. So, although Silent Scope says Tampa Bay without 90+ temp would get crushed by Philly, I would love to see them in the playoffs. That's a very good point. On the road, cold link. Second time this year. Maybe you're right. Maybe they wouldn't be that scary. Who knows?
Yeah. It would be different, but I think so.
Yeah.
DeVonta with the 2, appreciate that. Says, will you be streaming tomorrow's game, guys? We will not, unfortunately.
No.
Little babysitting duty for me, my niece. So it wasn't gonna happen either way. We might not have done it regardless. So not blaming her.
Thinking playoff games though, like non-Eagle
Yes.
playoff games. I think, especially if it matters, the winner goes to Philadelphia. I think we'll definitely be locked in for that. So.
Yep.
We will be. But obviously, streaming on Sunday for a nice, easy 1 o'clock NFC kick.
For sure, yeah. And the playoffs, like you said, that's going to be lit, because it'll be, that'll be a lot of NFC playoff games, consecutive days of streaming and everything, but it should be fun. So we'll have a blast. Everybody, prepare for that. But get your cheese heads. Where's that picture? I had it here. I was going to try to.
Do you have one in a cheese head?
There we go. I found it. I was like, where on earth is it? Okay, here we go. There you go. We're cheeseheads to begin with. We're already cheeseheads. So just get out your Philadelphia cheesehead hat, and you're good to go. That's how you cheer on the back tomorrow.
I love it.
Philadelphia cheese.
Go. Nice and easy. Someone just said y'all churn out content. Oh, Elias Acosta, I see that. We do. We try and churn out content.
Thank you.
That's cream cheese head. Sorry, I was just looking at the picture now.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Cream cheese head.
Cream cheese head. But it still works. So cheese head.
It's a good one.
You can't go with a full pack. But anyway, Dirty Air says, go Pack go just tomorrow.
Just tomorrow. True. Yeah, just tomorrow. Because the Packers, I think, are a good football team. Jordan Love has not been as good this year. Like, preseason MVP. I mean, everyone was like, Packers are going to be... He has thrown a lot of interceptions and not a lot of touchdowns. Have my fantasy team, and so I know. But they're still dangerous, and they still have weapons, and they run the football well, and they're cold weather. So they're good. I think Philadelphia would beat them a lot more handedly than they did week 1 in Brazil because of the whole Brazil factor. But we'll see.
Yeah. John says I can 3D print that. I forgot John has a 3D printer. So
Okay.
The
There you go.
cream cheese head, those things are wild. I've not actually seen one in person. I've just seen videos, but
My roommate had one, and he couldn't make it work. So
oh,
at least John
that
can.
would,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Manuel here with the 2. The Zach Bond for Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's, I mean, I would
Who
vote
is
it.
the leader in the NFL Defensive Player of the Year right now? It is, I'm looking it up,
Okay.
TJ Watt. He is your best odds. Myles Garrett, Will Anderson, Xavier McKinney, Daniil Hunter, Pat Surtain, Chris Jones. So he is not on the top 7, which would probably be because of stats, right? If he had more picks and more fumbles and all this nonsense, then sure. But yeah, it's going to be hard to beat TJ Watt, I would say. And Garrett's had a good year, and Will Anderson has had a good year. I think Xavier McKinney would be my second pick because he's like 8 interceptions or whatever the number is. But yeah,
he's been insane.
I agree. Bond is our defensive MVP. I think alongside Jalen Carter would be my pick there, but he sadly will not win. My main thing is Zach Bond has got to be a Pro Bowler this year. He should be an All-Pro, but he has got to be a Pro Bowler this year. And it'll be very interesting because he's not that well known outside of Philadelphia yet. If he gets enough votes, so we'll see. We'll see.
He should be. You're right. It's going to be completely overlooked if he doesn't win those awards, just by the fact of, like you say, it's an unknown name, came out of nowhere basically for a lot of people, and you're like, wait, what? He's should be there, but maybe not getting those votes. So I don't know what else he needs to do, quite honestly. But yeah, Ryan saying Bond isn't known enough. True,
not known enough.
He's putting up numbers that are close to like Luke Kuechly numbers. I saw the side by side of that through the same amount of games at this point in the season. He's putting up, one of the better Luke Kuechly seasons for what he's doing in Philly. And, that tells you all you need to know about what you're playing linebacker-wise. So, I don't know. Probably not going to get there as far as any sort of Defensive Player of the Year. But Pro Bowl, that it feels like, how much of a slide is that if he does not get the at least Pro Bowl? But
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see.
I think that's about it. I think we can wrap up.
I think
here.
so.
We've covered just about everything. I was going to double check on the chat, but I think I hit that last super chat as well. So we appreciate you guys as always. Yeah, okay, there's one. Cut Maddox already. He's so bad. He's
I just don't know who else would you play in the dime. They don't trust anybody else in the dime. And it's crazy that like Eli Ricks at this point, it's like, could you play Eli Ricks? But apparently not. And they, for whatever reason, and we got to trust Vic Fangio because he's been right about everything this season, that's their best option. So, I guess we will see. I guess that we will definitely see.
Yep. Eli Ricks gets activated every once in a while, but other than that, he's just kind of the depth piece on that side. So, I don't know. Last super chat here at the buzzer. Dirty Air, appreciate that. The 5 said, my 2-year-old's daycare informed me today that he has all the kids singing the fight song.
That's a good father right there.
Go.
That's a good father right there. Well done. Well done. That's the right phone call you want from your 2-year-old's teacher, right? Not that he's hitting people or he's being bad or talking back. He's leading the masses in the Eagles fight song. Well done. We aspire.
Love that. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome.
That's a good one.
And especially at 2 years old, like that's a really impressive part
really
too, because sometimes it's struggling to make sure you have enough of the words as a 2-year-old. So
right.
Heck yeah, good on you. Well, cool.
Sweet.
I think we'll wrap it up on that one though. Obviously actually before I do that, to wrap it, we should say score predictions, of course, in case we don't have the live stream before the game.
Gonna be?
So Carolina. What was we'll get the updated odds, of course. So let's see what it is as of right now. Carolina, it is a 12. Yep, 12. So Eagles minus 12.
Wow.
And actually, it depends on where you look at. There's one here looks like minus 12.5. So somewhere in that area, 12, 12.5, and the total of 46.
I think a lot of people will put them as like a backdoor kind of like underdog. They're going to cover and lose by 10 or something like that. I was looking here at the schedule. They had a streak of giving up like 30 a game, dating for like a 5-game stretch, and then they only give up 23 to the Saints, 20 to the Giants, 30, but lost 30-27 to the Chiefs, and then they gave up 26 to the Bucs this past week in overtime and should have beaten them. I think Philly rolls. I think it's probably a little closer. Let's go 31-20 Philadelphia. We'll give them the cover, obviously, with the Panthers if it's 12.5 by the time the kickoff happens. But I'll go 31-20. I think maybe a little peskier. People say 45-6. 45-20 I see right here. Drake Mott, I don't know if he's related to me or not, 47-7. I'll go 31-20 and hope that it's like 31-13 in the actual reality.
Okay, I like that. Jorge says, I bet the under Eagles win 45-0. Okay. I mean, I'd like that, sure. The under by 1 point, and the Eagles win by 45. Take the Kenny Gainwell over, because if it's 45-0, Kenny Gainwell's run for 200 yards and 3 scores. So, I'm going to go with, I'm thinking it's going to be, can the Eagles offense, it's like the question of how much offense can they get going. I'm going to say they get over the 30. So I will give them, I'm going to say 34. They score 34, and I'm going to say...
They score 34?
The Eagles offense, sorry. The Eagles offense scores 34. No,
sorry. I was like, what?
Sorry. No. Eagles offense scores 34, and... What do I go with Carolina? Give me Carolina scores 17. I'll say 34-17.
I like that.
Win by 17,
like
Eagles cover.
Yep.
Solid
there
victory.
You go. All right.
We'll see.
Cool. Well, we got plenty more stuff, obviously, in terms of shows. Be sure to subscribe. You haven't donated to the Jalyx Hunt joint GoFundMe. Check that out. Link down below. And we'll see you guys on Sunday for our live. But we have shows, obviously, in between that, as we always do.
There you go. And we'll be spinning, reminder, too, for the Jalyx Hunt signed jersey on Sunday during the game, too. So probably halftime. But like Thomas said, we appreciate you guys. Couldn't do this without you, obviously. But y'all are the best. And we'll end as always. But go Birds.
Go Birds.